it's just bad.
This is our second call. Second call. It's the queue process.
Fasten your seatbelts, stays in the upright position, please.
Third call. Restart.
Okay. So, it turns out that I'm actually doing exactly the same presentation that Earl just did, except that I'm using this modern invention called the moving picture. So that'll be the big difference here. I took some time during Earl's presentation to catch some video of him doing the presentation. Of course, all that has disappeared, so I'm very glad that I copied that. So I had my phone sitting here earlier and copied some of the video that I took while Earl was doing the presentation. I want to try to use that with Kdenlive, Kdenlive. It's a whole extra syllable in there that I'm not used to. So, give me half a second here while I want to start that. And I want to start this as well, the regular nostril cam for recording the presentations. So the idea was that I had taped my presentation of the new social with George's help and Laurel's help and the nostril cam as you see it on the picture here, as well as taking a record my screenshots. And I wanted to combine all that into a nice looking video and looked at several of the packages to do it. Kdenlive, to me, seemed to be the simplest. There's a few other ones too. Cinelera is one of them, which is considered the professional thing. I looked at that. The only thing I could figure out how to do was to shut it off. It was just too complicated. So I stuck with Kdenlive. It's going to take a long time to figure out. And this is what it looks like on this particular monitor. It's a 1024 by 768 screen, which is much smaller than what I'm used to. As Rose said, having a larger screen is really, really useful when you're doing video editing. In particular, this little screen up here is going to be the preview screen for all the video that I'm going to be editing. It is really nice to have a second monitor sitting beside you where you can actually see what you're producing over there. So let's get started here. Bit of a caveat here. I've been having some trouble with this particular Kdenlive installation. It crashes. It crashes whenever I touch some of the transition effects. So partly for that reason, I'm not going to be showing you a lot of transition effects tonight. The other reason for not showing you a lot of transition effects tonight is that I'm not very good at it. So it didn't look like a very good presentation. But we'll get started. The way that Kdenlive is very similar to what Rule just showed us. First thing you have to do is to import your material. And the material that you're going to be working on is going to go to this little space here. And so I'm going to click on the Add a Clip button. And I find that the videos that I took of Rule earlier are in this little area here. So the first thing I'm going to do is to just add the videos. And they will all go in here. So there we go. We have some live video to work with, almost live video. And I should be able to play that. And hopefully we'll be able to hear that on the...
From the DVD, so his reasoning.
I wasn't kidding when I said it's going to be the exact same presentation all over again. The other thing that I want to add, and especially when I'm doing the presentation that after I've recorded it, is an additional soundtrack. So what I would normally do is grab Paul's wonderful podcast, download that, because the audio quality on the podcast tends to be a lot better than what any camera can pick up. So grabbing the audio podcast is great. And the last thing that I would normally want to do for an audio soundtrack is to have a little bit of introduction and extra music as well. So I happen to have that captured here as well. It's called the Rotten Mage Space Jacked OST, which I don't really know what that means, by a group called Saw Square Noise. So I'm going to add that into the list as well. So I want the OGG file here. Saw Square Noise is something that I found in the Free Music Archive. So it's music that's permitted for reuse, remixing, as long as attribution is made. So because we need to do attribution, we'll have to put in some title strings as well, so that we can give proper credit to that. So let's get started here. On the bottom side of the screen, there's a series of 3 video tracks and 2 audio tracks. Normally what I would do is assemble all the video tracks together and then make them the duration of the actual video that I'm recording or that I'm creating. But in this particular case, I want to be constrained to a certain amount of time. So I'm actually going to start in this particular case with the soundtrack. Now once I've got the soundtrack in here, then I know I have exactly this amount of time to be able to work with, which is just a little bit over 2 minutes here. So convenient thing here is that a zoom to project button at the top there, and a zoom button along the bottom here allows me to zoom in and out. So along the top here, it says, this is 29 seconds, that doesn't seem right. And this should actually be 42 seconds in length. Well, regardless, we'll carry on and see how that actually works out when I do the video. So, to assemble some video into Kdenlive, I want to grab something interesting that Rahul had to say. I'm going to actually start with this one here. It's a nice 49-second clip of Rahul there. I'm going to stick that in there, and we'll see how that goes. Right now, I'm just going to turn that off. I want to see if I can move the cursor around here. There's the cursor. I'm going to move that back to the beginning and just play that particular clip that I've got in there now.
Search for ventilation, click install, and that is it.
Thank you, Rahul.
The same for...
So that's there. But very likely, before I actually wanted to have Rahul go right into it, I'm going to want to have a little bit of introduction music there first. So let's actually have a listen to that introduction music and we'll see how that goes. Rewind and play it. So there's probably a little bit on the loud side. And so that's going to be the pace at which Rahul is going to be doing his presentation. And a nice fast chip tune there to go by.
You should have told me so I could lip sync.
All right, there's one clip. Rahul does many interesting things, so I'm going to grab a second video clip as well. But before I do that, there's a little bit of interesting stuff that Rahul had to show on the screen as well, so I'm going to add that in there as well. And then there's a bit more Rahul, I think. A bit more Rahul. Audience reaction shots. Excellent. So we'll put some of that in there as well. So, roll screen, audience reaction, and then more roll. We'll put that in the very bottom here. So the idea here is now that we have Rahul's introduction. We have some shots of the screen as Rahul is doing the presentation. Maybe you got a little bit extra stuff in here from Rahul doing the presentation. Bit of audience reaction, and then finally, in here we have the finish of Rahul's presentation. All of it should then fit inside the audio track that I've got down here at the bottom. So let's see what that actually looks like right now. It probably doesn't look very good at all because there's that. If I move it ahead just a little bit. So, a few obvious problems. The main obvious problem is that the music is far louder than the audio on the soundtrack. And conveniently, we have a series of effects that we can apply to both the audio and the video. First thing I want to do then is choose an audio effect. There's an audio effect called amplification, which, audio levels, here it is. So I'm going to take the entire audio level and just increase that to be louder. And you'll see whether or not it actually makes the sound come out louder than what we had before. And here, I want to turn down the audio effect so that it's not as loud as it was before. Add effect, and audio, so good from here, easy to find there. Audio levels, there we are. And from here I want to turn it down. That doesn't seem to be up. There we go. It just seems to be turning it up. Well, that's unfortunate. All right, never mind, I'm just going to eliminate that altogether for the moment. So, back to the beginning. I want to show Raoul here, and then I want to switch to Raoul's screen display. And in order to do that, I actually have to remove the top layer, because in Kdenlive, we only see whatever is on the top layer in the video track. So if this is covering the entire length of the track, this track here, this video track here, is the only track that we want to see. So the first thing that I want to do then is where the screenshot goes, is to cut a little bit of roll out. And so I've just snipped, using the razor tool here, I've just snipped the video track into 2 halves. And back to the selection tool. Now I'm just going to remove this second half of the track altogether by pressing the delete key. Gone. Now, I'm just going to turn off the audio track here. If we go through the track again, we should see a transition happening from one to the other. So this is still at the top here, and the transition goes to the screen like that. And when the screen transition is done, we should go back to a bit of roll. There's a bit more roll. And then finally, there's a bit of audience. And when that's done, we should get a little bit of roll again. Right, roll? There it is. Lovely. That's exactly what I want to do, but looking at it like that, it's exceptionally ugly. It has nothing to do with the rules, looks, that's just the way that the video is assembled at the moment. So, in order to make the transition between these two look a little bit nicer, I can add a transition effect. So the transition effects are in here. I can add a transition, and then add transition. And the transition that I prefer is a dissolve. There are other transitions available as well, such as a wipe effect. And you can see that in here. Let me just enlarge that a little bit. Using the enlarging tool on the bottom here. You can see that the transition effect sits between the 2 video tracks here. So now, if I were to play that, with the cursor there, we should see a transition happening between Raoul and the video screen. There it goes. Just like that. Looks like that's a bit much. So I'm just going to move the video track back a little bit. And at the top here, we actually have seconds of track here. So I can see here that this is approximately a second of wipe. That might look a little bit better. Wiping, and sure enough, we had a little bit of that there. Lovely. Zooming out again, in a convenient zoom to fit project here. The next thing that I want to do is probably shorten the screenshot a little bit. This is far too much screen. It looks like there's 10-15 seconds of screen stuff there. I'm going to reduce the size of that shot and move back to a rule again at the end here. And again, I want to do the same thing in that section there. Oops. I want to add a transition between the screenshot and the rule again. There we are. I'll add another wipe effect to that particular, or actually I'll add the dissolve effect this time. So there we have a dissolve effect. So now we have 2 sets of video and a little bit of screenshot in the middle. Clear that, wipe across to the screen, and then over to the dissolve. Lovely. But I'm a right-handed guy. I find that the wipe there is the wrong way around. So I can actually go and invert the direction of that wipe and do it that way. Other wipes that are available, if you look at the wipes, there's a whole series of different wipe programs available. So as Raoul showed on his transitions for pictures, I can make the same sort of wipe effects here. What else do we got? The diagonal wipe. Yep. Very clever. Oops. Back to the beginning. And just want to take that wipe and put number 1 in reverse so that we see the screen lighting from left to right. Lovely. All right. We have another bit of video here, and I just want to cut Berlin in half again over here, like that, and then we can, maybe I just want to undo. Control Z, we need to do is undo. And what I really want to do here is to probably reduce the length of the audio. So one of the options that I have here is to group items together. Happily, whenever I move an object on the screen, it turns out that it snaps to different positions. Oops, did I undo that? I did not undo that. Okay, there we go. Whenever because I'm still on the razor tool. This is something that I find very awkward. I really want to snip generally with the razor tool just once. And so I would really like it that after I've snipped, that the razor tool returns back to the selection tool, but it doesn't do that, so I have to remember to do that myself. Anyway, what I was getting at here is that there's an automatic snap in place for most of the motions that you make on the effects down here, so it's really easy to line things up correctly. So for example, if I wanted the video to end at exactly the same time as the audio, there's a little, almost tactile pause right there where the video clip snaps to the same end as the audio clip that's down here. So that's very convenient for lining things up. Of course, having done that, I don't have to line up the video clip over here again as well. And I'll probably stretch that out a little bit like that. And then, oops, and then move that resolve so that it actually lines up with the video. Excellent. And we have some additional video left over here that we may or may not need. So I'm just going to eliminate that through the delete. Okay, back to look at the entire project. Does it look like what we wanted it to look like? Zoom to the project. Oh, it looks like I may have made a bit of a mistake here, because I think I've deleted something that I did not intend to delete, the audience reaction shot. Let's bring that back. Put the audience reaction shot back at the top over here. And then we'll just see if we can put some sort of fade in and fade out of that in the middle there. So let's have a look to see what it looks like. Fading back to Raoul. Raoul speaks for a while. And then we have the audience shot. And then that should fade out. Except it doesn't fade very well. So let's add a transition to that as well. And again, dissolve. Oops, nope, that was wrong. Before I can actually dissolve this, I'm going to need to divide this into the sections that I need to dissolve on. I'm just expanding that a little bit. If I want to dissolve that in and then dissolve it out at the end, I'm going to need to snip that into sections as well. I'm going to snip that here, and in this particular case, snip that there. And then we'll do the dissolve on those two snipped sections. Back to selection, dissolve there, and add a dissolve effect here as well. Add a transition, dissolve. And let's see what that looks like. Not too bad. And transition at the end, dissolve back to roll. Lovely. I'm not sure at the beginning there. Yeah, it looks all right today. Excellent.
On the razor tool, you said that you actually just slice or do something with it?
Yes.
Or does it actually remove anything?
No. One of the nice things about Kdenlive is that the audio files and the video files are stored on disk, and once they've been added into the clip here, nothing ever happens to them. The audio files and video files themselves are not touched at all during the editing. Instead, what happens is that there's an XML file that gets created, a list of instructions that tell Kdenlive what the different operations are that are taking place on the video tracks that I'm using, the audio tracks. So the actual audio tracks that I'm using are never touched, but a whole sequence of instructions is generated as I'm doing the graphical work here to indicate what should be appearing on the screen as the video track, as the entire track plays.
No, my question is, once that you click the snip on that little piece of video,
This piece of video here.
does it just create a cut there, or does it actually delete anything?
It creates an instruction in the XML file that says, here is one segment of the video.
A second.
And now here's a new segment of the video. And then on top of that, I can add another instruction in that video file saying, on this segment, put in this effect called the resolve. You can actually have a look at that. If we have a look at the file, and in fact what I should have been doing and telling you to do is to save frequently. Happily, nothing's crashed just yet, so the demons are with me today. In Bob Jonkman's documents, under LUGs, KWLUG, and the Kdenlive presentation. I'm going to save the presentation called Roll DVD, which is what this presentation is going to be about. And it'll have the .kdenlive extension. We'll save that there. And look at that file, Roll Kdenlive. And I'm going to open that, not with Kdenlive, but with Pluma, the text editor. So looking at that with the text editor, you'll see that it's an XML file that's just really full of instructions describing the different video clips that I've added, describing the sections in the video clips, and probably near the bottom of the list, describing the transitions that take place here. So here we have a transition effect called mix, which is probably the dissolve effect, and so forth. It's actually happened that one of the effects is called the affine, or the affine. I'm not sure how that's pronounced either. We seem to be having a lot of pronunciation difficulties lately. It's the effect that definitely causes Kdenlive to crash on my computer here. So I can't even touch the affine effect in order to delete it. As soon as I try to delete that, Kdenlive crashes. So in the past, I've actually gone into the Kdenlive XML file to just remove the affine effect from the text file here, and then I can reload it, and the problem is circumvented. At some point, I'm probably going to have to do a reinstall and figure out what's causing it to crash in the first place. But in the meantime, this is a convenient workaround, editing the text file to come around the problem of it crashing. At any rate, we have a nicely assembled video here now with Rule introducing, a screenshot, Rule carrying on the explanation, and then some audience reaction shots, and finally Rule finishing off. But it's missing an important thing. It's missing title information at the very beginning. So rather than importing an image that includes the title, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add a title clip to the presentation. And here we have a fairly simplistic editor, as you might see in LibreOffice or possibly GIMP. And it allows me to do things like add text, roll DVD, which I'm just going to make very much larger than it is. There we go, roll DVD, oops, move that over there. Another bit of text, oops. KWLUG media. That's too big, so we can make that smaller. 2 Gs. And then possibly I might want to add in the logo here a small image which I can add from a convenient file that I happen to have prepared earlier today. So, pictures, plugs, documents, plugs, KWLUG, Kdenlive, And there's our lovely logo for KWLUG. Save that, and we now have an additional clip, which is just a static clip which includes the title. I'm just going to move Roll back a little bit over here. Oops, oh, I see it's hard here. It's a little over on the side there. Move Roll out of the way ever so slightly, so I can add the title clip into the video clip over here. Just like that. So, according to the time scale along the top, I can see that the video or the title clip that I've put in there is almost 5 seconds long. That's probably about the right size. Here we see that affine effect, the affine effect that's been put on there, the one that's going to cause me trouble as I touch it. So I'm going to be very careful to avoid touching it. And let's see what that looks like now. So going back to the beginning of the clip, play through that. And you would normally be hearing the music on that, but I've turned the music off. And there's a roll. That's good. That's a bit of an abrupt change to that. I'm just going to add a fade effect in here. So the roll comes in gently. Fade in from black. And take that down to about half a second or so. Half a second is about 15 frames. And so you see 15 frames in the top. 15, 14, 15 frames, 16 frames. Good enough. And then probably have a fade in and fade out effect over here as well. Fade from black. Oops. And then again. Add effect, fade from black. Instead of dealing with the slider at the top, I can also grab the effect and just move that over. So fade from black. Look at that. Obviously I missed it. There we go, fade from black. And also add an effect to fade to black. There we go. So before it shows up, the screen should be faded to black. Alright. I'll do it the hard way. One more time, if the person will start, I'll add some audio, bring that down a little bit, and see how it plays. Oh, good. But the problem is now obvious. We are having an issue here with the sound. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the video track earlier. I'm going to take the razor tool, slice the audio here, so that I can fade the audio out. And again, I can add an effect of fading out. And so here, that should fade out. And then I want to fade the audio track in again at the end of the presentation. And so I'll do the same thing I did at the beginning, slice it apart, at that spot, and add, oops, and again I've just done the same thing I did before. Razored it twice. Fade in again, add an effect. Add an effect of fade in, and then add the effect of, well, it shouldn't have to fade out because the audio track here itself already fades out by itself. In the middle, of course, we don't want roll to be trumped over by additional music, so I'm just going to eliminate the audio in the center, leaving us with the audio track at the beginning and the audio track at the end, and you should be able to see that in its entirety. Just for safety, I'm going to save before I play it. Yes?
At the end, can we fade Raul up?
You can fade roll out too, yes. So,
well, no, I mean, you want to do the transition, right?
well, the transition? Yeah, we can try that.
And he's just very loud.
So there we go.
Can you fade,
Don't forget.
can you fade the video as well as the audio, or can you do either?
You can fade them independently. So on this track here, for example, there's an option to split the audio. If I split the audio, then I get a separate video and audio track, and I control them independently. That's really handy if you're doing things where you're cutting back and forth between different videos, and both videos have an audio track on them, so that you can keep the one audio track running along the bottom of the first clip, then switch to a second video clip, that doesn't use its own audio track.
Don't forget to save.
Sorry?
Save.
Save, yes. Thank you, George. I see George may have run into this problem himself. All right. Lastly, I want to add at the very end here another title track, another title clip for credits and whatnot. So I want to add a title clip at the end. This title clip will be starring Raul. Sorry, Raul, no accents on this keyboard. And then I conveniently, I conveniently happen to save the credit text for the music clip. So that's these guys here. Saw Square Noise. I'm just going to copy that entire clip there, switch back to Kdenlive, and add that clip because it's easier than trying to remember what I put in there before. So there we go. Saw Square Noise can go in there, reduce the size a little bit. Does that fit? Almost fits. Maybe 60. There we go. Lovely. And so now my video is legal because I've given appropriate attribution to both the star and the musical artist in there as well. Click OK, save it again, and add that second title clip to the very end. In fact, I'll be added to the end before Earl is done, so that I can fade or I can dissolve from one to the other there. So as Tim suggested, we'll fade Roll out, and we'll fade the credits in. Add effect, fade from black. Grab a little green guy, and fade Roll out. Add effect, fade out, or fade to black rather, and away goes the roll. Oops, that didn't hurt. Let's put him back where he was, fade him out, add effect, and see what that looks like. There's the roll. Does the roll fade out? The roll does not fade out. Why does the roll
You
not fade
faded
out?
the audio.
Oh, I faded the audio. Oh, that was an error. Yep. So I can actually go in here and just delete the effect altogether and fade roll visually. Fade to black. Did that get in there? It did not. And effect fade to black. One more time. There we go. Roll's gone. And the show's over. Okay. Back to Zoom to project. So I've got something in here, and I'm not entirely sure what. It's actually giving me an extended video beyond, or extended video beyond the end of the presentation. I'm not quite sure where it comes from. Goes to the end, and it keeps on going, and there's nothing there. Don't know what that is. At any rate, it looks reasonably good. Let's have a quick look to see what that looks like from the start.
Here, search for recommendation, click this stone, and that was it. The transition is the same for
Yeah.
Is there any support for putting stuff over top of the video? Like, did you put a semi-transparent image on top? Or
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can dissolve the two videos together. Part of the trouble is that the advanced effects make my computer crash. I'd love to show you that, but the computer crashes, and I'm not really very good at doing that.
Is it just this computer, or is it?
It is my
KDN?
computer.
Oh, okay.
I've used Kdenlive before, and everything's worked just beautifully. In fact, when I installed Kdenlive on here a couple of months ago, I found out that there's a bunch of different controls that used to be available in toolbars and stuff that just aren't there anymore. So So I actually ended up having to customize the toolbar myself along the top here to give me back the selection tool, the razor tool, and all the things that I commonly use. Normally I expect to see little icons along the bottom here, like, you know, a pair of scissors for snipping for the razor and whatnot. So it's under active development. That's a good thing. But it's under such active development that I've lost track of what they're doing and, you know, have to relearn it every time that they come up with a new version. All right.
Yes. For the video synchronization, if you have 2 or 3 videos,
Yes.
do you have to synchronize manually? Is there a way to synchronize by time?
It's snaps. One of the things that I found is that when I combine video from different sources, they don't all have the same time rate. And so something that goes at 30 frames per second will advance nicely 30 frames per second, but there's a really odd video speed of 29.7 frames per second. I have no idea why that is. Probably something to do to avoid flicker from fluorescent lights. But it also goes at the rate of 30 frames per second. So it eventually catches up and exceeds the other video clips. So I haven't quite figured out how to deal with that. But if I've got 2 videos from the same video source that do run at the same rate, then the easiest thing to do is to just move things back and forth and depend on Kdenlive's snapping action to keep them lined up. So the end of one video can line up at the beginning of another video.
I'm thinking, for example, you have 2 video sources, the audience and the speaker, and you want it to be synchronized. That as you go to one, you continue exactly the same point, looking at the audience, and then you go back to go to the same point.
Yes, that's essentially what I did over here. I've got Raul, you, sitting here in one continuous video, and in order to switch to the audience view, I simply superimpose the audience view over top of that, and then cut out the bits of the view where I didn't want them anymore. So in this section right, sorry, where is that? In this section right along here, where I had one piece of video from you, one piece of video from you, back to the project again. You were in here with the video, and then I cut the center section of you off to superimpose the audience video. And I could have done that a multiple number of times. I would have had the audience track in one video channel and the Raul track in another video channel. And simply remove the chunks where I want to switch back and forth between the 2 clips. Yeah, easy enough to do, bit of a manual process, or maybe an easier way to keep the tracks continuous.
I was thinking more, you don't start shooting at the same time. You maybe a second difference between you start shooting here and you start shooting here, but then you need to align. Yes. Is that just a visual alignment, or are there ways to align?
In commercial video, there's a sync generator that powers all the different cameras so that they have the same synchronization track on all the videos. In our own home videos, we don't have such a thing. So what I've done in the past is at the beginning of the thing is just clap so that I can synchronize audio and video from all the different cameras together on the visual shot of my hands coming together, and then the little spike that I see in the audio track to put that together. So there's a visual way of doing it, but there's nothing that really snaps it together. Of course, once you've got them aligned with Kdenlive, any other video that you add to that does snap to the beginning and to the end of that section. But no, Kdenlive doesn't have that built in. They actually have an ability to deal with a video sync track, but that's beyond my ability to deal with. I'm no professional video editor. All right, the video looks pretty much like I want it to look, and now, as Raul did, I want to turn that into an actual single file. So I'm going to click on the render button at the top here, and that will turn all the bits and pieces, all the clips as defined by that text file that gives the instructions on how these bits and pieces should come together, and create a single video image out of that. Now usually, in this case here, I would pick a free software, free license friendly video codec, which is the Vorbis for audio, and probably WebM or W8, I'm not entirely sure what that's called, for the video, but it's pretty slow. So the fastest that I found is actually the first that comes up in the Kdenlive list, using an MP4 with H.264 video and AAC fast. I'm not a video expert, so I couldn't really tell you what the difference is between that and anything else, but it works and it's quick. And then I want to tell where I want to save this. So on your documents, lugs, KWLUG, Kdenlive. I want to call this Raoul DVD. And that's where it goes. And then finally, take the full project and render that to the file. As Will said, rendering takes an awfully long time. The video is only a little bit over a minute long, but it can take 3 or 4 times the length of the video to actually do the rendering. Not entirely sure why that is. It might be because it's actually assembling everything frame by frame. It's also fairly memory intensive. For the purposes of this, I actually put at the top here a couple of CPU monitors. So this is CPU 1 and CPU 3, so 2 separate cores with multi-threading on there. So I can keep an eye on how busy things really are. And during the rendering process, they're both right at the top of the heap. It's a 3.1 gigahertz processor, so it's pretty darn close to maxed out there. So we'll take another 30 seconds according to its estimate, and then we'll see whether or not we actually get a video coming out of it.
From my experience, the duration depends on the contents. If you have lots of leaves blowing, yeah, that's a lot of graphics there. But if it's like a still image, that's pretty fast, yeah.
Okay, that may be because it's doing the compression for the MP4 format.
Yeah.
Didn't realize it. What I found is that the more transitions that you have, the more separate elements that exist in your video stream, the longer the rendering takes as well. Because I've been doing this over and over again, the same small clips of video over and over again. And I found that the biggest difference is how many segments I've cut it into. I've tried to keep it fairly simple here tonight. Yes, Laurie?
See the scripts tab before you're closing?
The scripts tab? Sure. Really exciting?
I'm wondering why that uses in the back end for rendering.
I don't know. I haven't gotten into the back ends of Kdenlive at all. What you see me do just now, aside from some superposition effects, having things over top of each other, having multiple screens on at the same time. So, for example, having a shot of the screen in one corner of the video, then having a headshot in another corner of the video. Those are effects that I'm able to do. But that's about the total extent of my video editing ability. I haven't done anything like scripting things or anything like that. Let's have a look to see what it looks like. Close that. Happily it offers to save it yet again. So we'll save the Kdenlive file one more time. And then now in our list here we should see the Raoul DVD video, and we'll play that with VLC Media Player.
Search for imagination, click install, and that was it. The transition is the same for the I can't imagine that it can get easier than that. Drag your pictures, or select your pictures, everything that is happening. Organize them, select them all, set the time, set all of them to be random, and export. How to use it. That's it.
So how to be slightly better about the whole thing, I would have been able to adjust the audio slightly better. We have repeats like that. So had I been a little bit clever, I would have been able to adjust the audio a little bit better, bring up Raoul's level slightly and take down the music level slightly so that he's not overpowered at either end by the audio tracks. But there you are, a reasonably simple video, just assembled together. And that's it. Questions?
One of the things that I saw when I was investigating is that on Kdenlive you can actually create those same slideshows just by dragging and dropping.
Yes.
Have you done that?
I've not done anything with slideshows, but it's one of the clip options that you can add in here. You can add a slideshow clip, which then probably asks you for a number of photo files that you put in there, and then Probably very similar to Imagination. It lets you add transition effects and such between them. Of course, you can also add each slide individually, each photo individually, and then use the Kdenlive transition methods to transition between them. But yes, there's a slideshow clip option I've never used.
Can you blur clips?
Yes, it's one of the effects that you can add. So if we think that Raoul is just too sharp, was Raoul? Come on, Raoul. All right. If we think that Raoul is just too sharp, we can add an effect for distort, crop, blur, all sorts of things like that. We can blur him lots or blur him little.
And it had the box blur, does it mean just the face or?
There are ways of adjusting where the effects take place as well. Again, that requires that I find the theme in which makes my computer crash. But yes, you can blur just a small section.
Can you follow a person in the video being blurred all the time?
I don't know. I've never tried something as fancy as having an effect follow something along the screen. Usually I divide my screen into 3 or 4 sections and then put one video on the top, a bit of text in the corner, and a second video on the other side. And that's as fancy as I've got. I imagine it's possible, but I don't know. Alrighty. How are we doing for time? Bad.
Wow.
5 minutes to 9. Andrew?
You mentioned doing audio levels, but can it do anything automatically, or is it all you kind of go in and like see if there's sound behind at the same level? Or?
So it is using the podcast audio track? Is that?
Yeah, well, like for example, if you wanted to make the sound and the speaking the same, like say you could bring them to some of the same volume.
Yes.
Will it do it? Like, is there anything that will make it automatically figure out to get them kind of the same?
Oh, so like an automatic gain control?
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything like that. It may be in the effects list.
Probably looking for something called normalize. You want to normalize on all the channels.
All right. Not called normalize. One of the things that you do get in the audio tracks is a visual display of the level of the track. So you can see in here, for example, the audio track that I added, the music track, has a fairly high level. And when you look at the separated audio track for it's a fairly low level. So you could probably manually adjust the volume levels until they look visually the same in the clip thumbnails there. But I haven't seen an automatic gain control that you can just apply to an entire channel. I haven't seen a normalize where you can make all the channels at the same level either.
Can you collapse that audio in there? That was one below it.
Yes.
Audio channels.
Audio channels. So here we have panning between different channels, reversing channels.
What's an audio correction?
In audio correction. There's the game that I was looking for.
That's what we're looking for.
And you're right, there's a normalize. Excellent. So I'm guessing that the normalize is going to apply. Oops.
If normalize works the way that it's supposed to work, it should find the highest level of every audio channel and then set them all to the same.
In the section that you select for the
Yeah. So if you selected your whole video, you can find the highest level of all and then auto set them.
So when I clicked on the normalize effect, I immediately see 2 normalized windows here. One with an arrow pointing up and one with an arrow pointing down. That's just moving the effect, I guess. Maybe I clicked more often than I should. I clicked twice? Oh, okay. From over there, Laurel heard the double click on the mouse.
No, I just can't remember.
Obviously, it's an error that's common to all video editors.
What other video effects you have? Can you make it like black and white or reverse the colors?
Yep, there's saturation effects for video as well. So I'll move back to the video effect here. So you can grayscale it. change the hue, invert the colors, do all manner of video effects there. Those are the simple video effects. There are also complex effects that rotate images and turn them upside down, appear to put them projected onto a cylinder, for example. All manner of really fancy effects like that are available too. But I've never used those. Paul?
Are any of tonight's presenters currently looking for employment?
Are any of tonight's presenters looking for employment? Yes, they might be. Are there opportunities available that we know about? Oh, Paul doesn't know. Yeah, I'm currently between contracts. If anybody has work that is preferably not in the video editing field, then I would be most interested in speaking with you. I'm not a professional video editor by any means. Laurel, however, did actually go to Sheridan College for Media Arts, so I had a very good tutor to help me out with all the rocky bits as I was trying to learn Kdenlive. I also spoke to another video editor who does the work professionally. When I mentioned, oh yes, I want to show how to use free software to do video editing, he was most distraught, saying, you're going to put me out of business. But one of the things that I've learned in doing things like video editing, you really learn how much you don't know about something. And if I've made it look reasonably easy, it's all to the congratulations of the software developer. It's certainly not my skill set that's made it look easy at all. It's the ease of use of the software. And I know how difficult it is to get something out there that looks nice. And I strongly urge you to hire professional video editors if you want to do professional video editing. Any other questions? If not, it's probably past 9 o'clock at this point, and time to be checking out the forecast.
So after you do this, you can just drag and drop and create a DVD.
Yes, exactly. I've got that MP4 file there now. It'll go into DVD quite nicely and burn itself into a DVD video format. All right.